Here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And a happy NFL schedule release day. You know what we're getting into here on the program. The Eagles 2025 schedule has been released. We got our hands on the leaked version. If there are any changes, and I don't think there will be, we will let you know and update you right here on the channel. And of course, this is the popular question on a day like this. And it's today's poll question. It's the pinned comment down below. So scroll on down and get your predictions in for the 2025 season. What will the Philadelphia Eagles record be? Let me know. As we found out on Monday, the Eagles will begin the 2025 NFL season, Week 1, Thursday, September 4th, at home against the Dallas Cowboys. That game taking place in prime time at Lincoln Financial Field. And the Super Bowl champions always have the honor of playing the first game to begin the season after they hoist that Lombardi trophy. And what a flex it's going to be for Philadelphia to raise yet another Super Bowl championship banner right in front of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys, an interesting team. Big year coming up for Dak Prescott. He only played 8 games last year, made the trade for George Pickens. It is the start of the Brian Schottenheimer era. Is the Micah Parsons deal going to get done? A lot of questions and a lot of intrigue, as always, with Dallas. Super Bowl 59 rematch will take place very early in the 2025 slate as the Eagles will go on the road in Week 2 to Arrowhead Stadium to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Back in 2023, in primetime, the Eagles went on the road and took down Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They will look to once again take down Kansas City after one of the most dominant Super Bowl performances that we've ever seen in the history of the National Football League back in February a few months ago at the Superdome in New Orleans. Not a lot of big offseason changes for Kansas City, but after getting annihilated by that Eagles defense, especially that defensive line, they prioritize bulking up their offensive line. We will also see another playoff rematch in Week 3 as the Eagles will play host once again to the Los Angeles Rams. Last year, the Eagles went on the road Sunday Night Football to play the Rams. Saquon Barkley popped off, and then they hosted the Rams in the divisional round. And Saquon Barkley, he had another legendary performance. The snow was coming down, and we saw the Saquon scamper in the snow. That game coming down to the wire. Jalen Carter with a couple of huge plays down the stretch. Of note for the Rams this offseason, signing Davante Adams in free agency. Week 4, another early season trip to Tampa. The Buccaneers have been a thorn in the Eagles' side over the last few years with Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles, and before Baker Mayfield with Tom Brady. For whatever reason, Todd Bowles always has the number of Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. The Eagles will look to reverse that, and of note with this game in Tampa, September, temperatures probably going to be high. Our highlighted matchup in those first 4 games is, of course, the rematch of Super Bowl 59. And I haven't had a look at what this Chiefs schedule is yet, but my goodness. We talked about the Eagles' schedule in 2023 being difficult after they made it to the Super Bowl and lost to Kansas City. There was that stretch that we deemed the gauntlet. This entire schedule is very difficult. The ratings for this game, going to be unbelievable. Fox prioritized getting this matchup. It is that 4:25 p.m. Eastern game. We flip the page to the next 4 matchups here. The Eagles will return to Lincoln Financial Field to host the Denver Broncos in Week 5. Bo Nix and Sean Payton leading Denver to a playoff appearance last year for the first time in several years. Denver did lose in the opening round, but they were one of the surprise teams in the National Football League in 2024. They look to carry that momentum into 2025. Week 6. This is the first matchup against the New York Giants, and Philadelphia will play the Giants 2 times in 3 weeks. Short week for Philadelphia. I like this, though, because you host Denver, and you have a short week playing on Thursday Night Football, but it's a bus ride up to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey to take on a Giants team that drafted Abdul Carter. They have Brian Burns. Dexter Lawrence is probably the best nose tackle in the NFL. Who's going to be their quarterback? Most likely Russell Wilson. Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, the other quarterbacks in that room. I do think the G-men going to be greatly improved as compared to last year. Week 7, one of the more difficult places to play in the NFL is on the road against the Vikings. This is, of course, where the Eagles won Super Bowl 52 against Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots. It just gets really loud inside that stadium. And so this is going to be a very difficult road game for the Eagles against a Vikings team that is going to start J.J. McCarthy most likely at quarterback. And so he's unproven, didn't play at all during his rookie campaign. But elsewhere, that entire Vikings team is very talented and well coached, with Kevin O'Connell as their head coach and play caller on offense, and then Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator. Week 8, it's the second of that matchup in 3 weeks against the New York Giants. I don't really like how the NFL does this. I'd like to see these divisional games spaced out a little bit more, but the NFL, they know a thing or two about ratings. Our highlighted matchup here for that stretch is this game against Minnesota. The Eagles last year went 14-3. The Vikings went 14-3. Sam Darnold signs with the Seattle Seahawks because the Vikings believe in J.J. McCarthy. We're only getting started here on today's show and beginning to take flight, but this is why you should subscribe to the channel. We got this schedule right around 3 o'clock Eastern, right? The NFL isn't announcing these schedules until 8 p.m. Eastern. We have a lot of insight and intel here on the show. We give you daily Eagles content right here on YouTube, covering everything from news, rumors, to analysis. We do live shows and watch parties for Eagles games. We involve you, and I really do have 5 key pillars that I want to accomplish anytime I'm in front of a camera, on the microphone, talking Eagles here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I want this show to be insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, and I want you to have a voice. So if that sounds good, lock us in. And we're always trying to compete here on the show as well. Our schedule release video last year picked up 62 new subscribers. This year, the channel is hot. We're north of 120,000 subscribers. We've reached more than 2 million people over the last month. Hop on the train, get on board, and join the movement. If you want an Eagles jersey in the lead up to the 2025 season, fittingly, we're talking about this right now as we're talking about the 2025 schedule. Get your jersey or jerseys today by using that link down below, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. This is a very arduous schedule for Philadelphia, but this team is still extremely well coached. They're still uber talented, and they're very young, and you can get some marquee playmakers as far as these jerseys go. Midnight green, black, road whites, Kelly green, men's, women's, kids. You can get current players and former players. You plug in that link, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. It'll take you to Fanatics, and Fanatics will know that Eagles Now, Chase Sr. and Chat Sports sent you. To the back half of the schedule, I like where this bye week lands for the Eagles. And I know last year the Birds had that week 5 bye, and we're thinking that was way too early. It actually came at the perfect time because the Eagles out of the gate were a little bit sluggish on offense and defense. They had that week 5 bye early to regroup. After that, they never looked back. And the only game that they lost the rest of the way was on the road against the Commanders late in the season when Jalen Hurts got knocked out early with that concussion. Given how difficult this schedule is, a week 9 bye, smack dab in the middle of this tough slate, it's going to be a good break before things ramp up yet again. And of course, a big theme when you win a Super Bowl, when you're a worldwide brand, and you're a primetime draw, you get a lot of marquee games and some marquee spots. And so yet another primetime game for Philadelphia here in Week 10 on the road against the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. The Eagles began the season in Brazil with a win over Green Bay, then beat the Packers at the Link in the wild card round. This Packers team, once again, going to be very talented, very deep roster. They are still very young. They picked up some really intriguing playmakers in the NFL draft. Matthew Golden, Savion Williams. They improved their offensive line after they really struggled against the Eagles in that first playoff game. And with where this game is, Week 10 on the schedule, I can't imagine it's going to be snowing and super cold at this juncture of the season, which I think is good news for everybody involved. Week 11, another primetime matchup. A little bit of a short week here for the Eagles, but they do have the advantage of playing on Sunday Night Football. And so they'll come back to Philadelphia late Monday in the wee hours of Tuesday, but then they get to play the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. I'm so fascinated to see how the Lions fare this year because their offensive coordinator, the Wizard Ben Johnson, is now the head coach with the Chicago Bears. How does that impact Jared Goff in that offense? And then their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, is now the the head coach, was the DC with the Lions. He's now the head coach of the New York Jets. Those are two massive coordinator changes for Detroit, and they are slated to have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. The second Cowboys matchup will be Week 12 at AT&T Stadium. The Eagles open up the season against Dallas at home. And so on the back half of that NFC East rivalry, the Eagles will go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area to play the Cowboys in that Week 12 matchup. Week 13, the Eagles will play against the Bears on Black Friday. So another short week here for the Eagles, but they do have the luxury of playing Chicago and hosting them at the Link. Hired Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams going into year 2. They fortified that offensive line. They drafted Luther Burden. They drafted Colston Loveland. When I think about all 32 teams in the NFL, the Chicago Bears, one of the more interesting teams in the NFL going into 2025. The marquee matchup on this page here, the Detroit Lions. It seemed like last year, up until about the halfway point of the season, that we're on a collision course for an NFC Championship game between Detroit and Philadelphia. The Lions finished the year 15-2. Pretty incredible considering the litany of injuries that they suffered on both sides of the ball. And those injuries really hurt them. That's why they got bounced early in the NFL playoffs by Washington in that divisional round. They got the first seed, home field advantage, and that first round bye. But the Commanders went into Ford Field in Detroit, and they smacked them. And I think these two teams going to be atop the NFC once again. And so this will be a marquee matchup in the NFC. Week 14, if you want to go out to Los Angeles, if you're an Eagles fan living out in LA, you want to go to SoFi Stadium. Eagles fans always take over the joint when the Eagles are on the road against either the Chargers or the Rams. And really, Eagles fans travel the best among any fan base in the NFL anywhere, but especially in the LA area. Monday Night Football against Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. Week 15, the Eagles will host the Las Vegas Raiders. They traded for Geno Smith. They drafted Ashton Genty. They hired John Spytek as general manager. Pete Carroll, the former Seahawks coach, now the head coach with the Raiders. And I think Las Vegas is going to be a lot more competitive than we've known them to be over the last several years. And that fan base, like Philadelphia's, also very intense. Week 16, the Eagles will go on the road to play the Commanders. This will be that Fox doubleheader on December 20th. And on the day of this doubleheader, it's going to be Eagles at Commanders, and then the Packers and Bears play that same day. We're going to have 3 college football playoff games that day. What a day in Week 16 of the NFL slate to celebrate the glorious game that is football. Week 17, the Eagles go on the road to play the Buffalo Bills. And with where we are in the calendar here at this point, weather could play a big role in going up against Buffalo. In 2023, again, during that gauntlet stretch, really great back and forth between the Eagles and the Bills. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts trading punches in like a heavyweight bout. Eagles won that game in overtime on that Jalen Hurts run. The Bills, despite them making it to the AFC Championship game, do have a top 5 easiest schedule this year based upon Vegas forecasted win totals. And I think once again, they're going to be a player in the NFL. They're going to be a Super Bowl contender. The big question with Buffalo, can they get over the hump and finally beat Kansas City? I think they can now that the Chiefs are vulnerable. And then the Eagles will round out the 2025 schedule against the Washington Commanders at home at the Link. Again, this is a stretch in which the Eagles are playing a divisional foe 2 times in 3 weeks. The NFL is hoping that these 2 games are of a great magnitude and that the NFC East could be decided in either Week 16 or week 18. I can't wait for that Buffalo Bills game. You have Eagles fans who we are crazy in our own right, very passionate. Sometimes we get to a degenerate level. Same can be said for the Buffalo Bills. I hope some Eagles fans are tabletopping some tables up there in Buffalo, New York. Josh Allen against this Vic Fangio defense. That is going to be epic. And so, we take another look at this Eagles 2025 schedule. Week 1 at home against the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. Week 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs, that late Fox window. Week 3, the Eagles will host the Rams at Lincoln Financial Field. Week 4, the Eagles hit the road once again to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 5, the Eagles will host the Denver Broncos. Week 6, on the road against the Giants, another primetime spot, Thursday Night Football. Week 7, the Eagles will go to Minneapolis to play the Vikings. Week 8, against the Giants at home. The bye week, week 9 for the Birds here in 2025. Week 10 coming off that bye. Extended rest. That's an advantage for the Eagles because the Packers are really good. On the road against Green Bay, Monday Night Football. Week 11 at home against the Lions on Sunday Night Football. The Eagles will travel to Texas to play the Cowboys in Week 12. Week 13 against the Bears at home on Black Friday, right after Thanksgiving. Week 14 against the Chargers. So another extended week for the Eagles. I like that because the rest disadvantage can be disadvantageous. Week 15, Eagles at home against the Raiders. Week 16 on the road against the Commanders on Saturday. Week 17 on the road against the Bills. And then the regular season finale, Week 18 against the upstart Commanders. We circle back to this question. What will the Eagles' record be in 2025? Predict it for me and keep an eye out because I'm going to be releasing an Eagles schedule prediction video coming up soon here on the program.